You're listening to Go Running Talks, a podcast by Go Running Tours. Quick, fun chats with our guides, guests, and partners from around the world. Get ready to discover new cities, inspiring stories, and the shared joy of running anywhere on the planet.
Hello, my name is Lena. I'm the founder of Go Running Tours, and welcome to yet another episode of Go Running Talks. This time I've joined by one of our new business partners, Matt, who's the general manager of Hyatt Regency in Chicago. So this is going to be a little bit of a different take, but Matt is a runner and he's been instrumental in introducing our tours to his hotel in Chicago, and he'll explain a lot more about it. So Matt, before I start introducing everything and you, then tell us about you and sort of your, I guess, life, but also running life in Chicago.
Sure. Thanks, Lena. Hello, everyone. So Matt Schalk, I'm general manager of the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place in Chicago. We are a 1260-room convention hotel that's connected to the Western Hemisphere's largest convention center, the McCormick Place Convention Center, with 2.5 million square feet of space. So we are on the south side of Chicago in an area called the South Loop, and we are flanked by a couple of very historic areas, the Prairie Avenue District and the Motor Road District in Chicago. We also are blessed with connectivity to the lake, and we are about a half a mile away from the lake. And on the lake, there are miles and miles of running and biking paths, which is just a great connective tissue to the lake, and it's very close by for us. So I got my start in the industry about 35 years ago, just working a job when I was in high school. I actually took that experience and started working in a hotel just near the campus of the university that I was attending. And I am the proud father of 4 children. I'm married to my college sweetheart for 29 years. And really, when I kind of fell into this industry by a little bit of default. So when I was in university, I was working at the hotel on campus. And at the end of my second year at the university, they came and I was a general business major. And they came to all of the general business majors and said, we're not going to graduate anybody with that major, and sort of discontinued the major. So it was a little bit of a shocking experience for me, but they did that to make sure that they weren't going to graduate anybody that was deemed unhireable with that generalized major at the time. So I gave some thought to it, and I really enjoyed what I was doing in the hotel. And loved my job in high school, loved my job in college. And I was able to transition all of my core business classes to my new major of hotel management. So everything happens for a reason, but I ended up in a great spot and absolutely love the industry. And I've been with Hyatt now for over 30 years.
That's incredible. That says something, I think, both about you as a person working in this for the same corporation for a long time, but also about Hyatt as a corporation, as an employer as well. It goes both ways. It's rare that people stay with the business for so long today. So that's really impressive, I think.
Yeah, I think, our purpose for caring for people so they can be their best really resonates with me. It always has. And I'm kind of a testament. I think Hyatt's a great company, obviously, and this industry is great as well. I tell students all the time that just about the pleasures of this industry, but I've been fortunate that I've been able to change my career multiple times in the last 30 years without ever changing my employer. And the one reality of this industry, dynamic 24/7 business, I've never been bored for more than 5 minutes in my entire career. In 30 years.
Fantastic. Excellent. And then, Matt, as well, describe yourself as a runner. I know it's early in Chicago right now. I think it's, what time is it in Chicago? Is it 7 or 6 o'clock in the morning? What time is it?
A little bit after 7 o'clock a.m. So,
yeah. So I know you've been running already.
Yes. I've got my run in already this morning, which is a ritual for me. So I would describe myself as a long, slow-paced runner. And it's intentional. Everybody talks about the runner's high, but it's just a way for me to really energize myself, clear my mind in the morning, and really get ready for a productive day ahead. So I beat the traffic by coming into the city early, and then 4 to 5 times a week, I will go for a run in the morning and just feel great about it for the rest of the day. If I do miss a run in the morning, I feel it, and I don't feel myself for the day. So I feel great about the fact that I've already got my run in for the day, and I'm off to the races. But long and slow
And
would be my description.
excellent. And I'm just curious, you mentioned you had 4 boys, Matt. Do they all run?
Yes, my oldest son, who is graduating med school this year, he is a runner as well. He's run a couple half marathons now, so he has also picked it up. Both of my daughters are dancers, so not runners, but they're very, very active. And my youngest son also is, he enjoys working out, not running so much yet, but I didn't really pick up running until I was probably about his age. So I would envision that the time is soon that he'll pick that up.
Yeah, I agree. I think for many, so the young people that are young, they might still see it a little bit boring when they're out running, and suddenly that's the whole catch, right? It's like, that's the good thing about it. Nothing, it's just you and the run.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that that's a great point, Lena. I think that we're in such a fast-paced environment with so much stimulation all around us that for me, it's a very just a healthy, not only physical exercise, but mental, and just it allows me to clear my mind. I very rarely listen to music. I will typically listen to, if I listen to anything at all, I'll listen to podcasts or audiobooks or even motivational YouTube videos and that type of thing. But very rarely I'm focused on less stimulation and more just mental clarity.
Excellent. And Matt, I always ask our the people that I speak to on these podcasts, what is their very best memory? Is there one running memory that sort of stands out to you? And it can be anything. Is it one time that sort of stands out to you as like, that's my best running memory?
Yeah, I traveled with Hyatt for every week for about a little bit over 10 years. And some of my best running memories were at properties around the world that I would visit. I remember running through Paris several times with colleagues and just really enjoyed it. In fact, at the Hyatt Regency Paris Étoile, there was a running group, and I think it was twice a week, they would go out for an afternoon run. Now, again, I'm a morning runner, but nonetheless, I just loved running with the group and seeing parts of the city or area that you otherwise wouldn't see as a visitor. And I would say my most surprising memory was with the Hyatt Regency San Francisco Airport, a property that I spent a lot of time at. And honestly, after a couple visits and just spending time running on the treadmill, I thought I should get out and kind of see if there's an area to run. Now, mind you, this is an airport property, right? And I found my way just about a block and a half through a couple buildings to the ocean front, where there are miles and miles of trails. And from that point on, every visit, that was one of my most surprising but best runs. It's a beautiful path along the ocean. There's fishermen fishing in the ocean. You run through parks, a lot of wilderness, and just really peaceful. It allowed me to go for these nice, long, slow runs and just have, and actually I was training for the marathon at the time as well. So some of my runs were very long, but just really I got to see a lot of that area that otherwise most visitors would have no idea that there's even that access to that. So it was just a beautiful run along the ocean in San Francisco.
Sounds incredible. And that's really sort of where the magic happens, when you go out just for a run and then you end up somewhere where you're just like, wow, I can relate to that. That sounds like a great experience. Do you have experiences as well where, as your worst running memories, sort of a memory that stands out where you think, that was a little bit tough going, or that it's not one of those I think back on with delight?
Well, I think about a very specific story at the Hyatt Regency Lost Pines and another property I spent a lot of time at in my traveling days with Hyatt. And it's a beautiful property set in the wilderness about 40 miles south of Austin. And it's on the Colorado River, and there are miles and miles of nature trails. And you actually go through a nature preserve on these trails. Well, it was one of my favorite runs. was truly a trail run, if you will. A lot of elevation up and down. You're not running on concrete, you're running on a path. And I became very confident, even though the trails are seemingly never ending and they crisscross and meander through the wilderness. Well, I got a little overconfident one time, and I actually went for an afternoon run and ended up getting lost in the woods, and it got dark very quick, very dark. And I was using my flashlight or my phone as a flashlight just to again, the trail is, there's rocks and everything. Well, my phone died because I was using it as a flashlight. And long story short, I ended up falling, kind of hurting my knee a little bit. I was in the woods, completely dark, pitch dark. I heard lots of animals scattering around in the woods. I'm not one to frighten in the wilderness per se, but this was a little bit scary. And I eventually found my way out to a road and then kind of limped back to the resort. And my pride and confidence was forever shook. I laugh about it now. For about an hour period, I was a little bit scared. I won't
understand that.
I won't make that run that late in the day ever again.
I could imagine. Has it changed anything, Matt? So if you go out on an afternoon run in an area that you don't know now, do you then, are you more prepared? Do you have a route in mind? Are you tracking a route? Or are you still sort of a little bit happy-go-lucky? I mean, now you tried it before and you survived, so I don't know whether that's also a good starting point.
Yeah, I think I think I learned from that in an environment like that isn't just along a shore where the direction, etc. Just to be a little bit more conscious of how much battery I have in my phone, and also just make sure I retrace my steps back. Again, I had run those trails many times. And I think that was my learning experience from that. Is from now on, I'll just make sure I absolutely know the path back and how far I am actually away from my original start of my run.
Excellent. So is there anything, now we talked about your career and we spoke about sort of you as a runner, is there anything sort of in your career or your professional life or sort of your leadership style or how you really do things professionally that you can attribute to running? Running, is there sort of a crossover a little bit in terms of how with your professional life, if you can contribute that to running, vice versa?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I think it kind of goes back to my pace, long and slow. In this 24/7 dynamic business that we're in the hotel industry, I think, it's important that myself as a leader in the hotel, that I proceed with the pace that I'm comfortable with and become overreactive to the pace that you have no control of. And so that pace comes and goes throughout the day, etc. As a leader, my colleagues and my managers feed off that pace. And if I'm rushing things, there's a tendency that they will do the same. And so we're trying to ensure that guest experience is a positive one. And so it's just really important that we just stay, as proactive as we can and stay on pace and we're deliberate with it, because otherwise things can unravel and you just get too rushed real quick.
That's that's really a great insight. I think it's something that I can learn from as well, when you sit and say that that sometimes, as you rush, of course, rush everyone else. And that's something to be aware of. I think it's great learning. There's one thing as well, Matt, that I noticed when we've been doing business. We're going to talk about the running tours from Hyatt Regency McCormick Place. But before we do that, one thing that I've noticed is that when we first spoke, the very first meeting, then you immediately were like, actually, you should speak to Didier at the Marriott, who's right next door. So it's not very often we speak to hotels that then recommend a competing hotel chain right next to them. So that was one thing that I really caught on to. I was like, this was a nice trade. And then also when we spoke about, and I can be open about this, when we do partnerships, then depending on how we work with hotels or partner, there's sometimes a commission. And immediately when we spoke about this, you were like, hey, Lena, can we change it? So we don't get the commission, but can it benefit the guests? So there's these small things that I picked up on in the way you do business. Is that sort of, and I guess, I don't know, I don't think you put on your CV just like being a good guy, but is that sort of, tell me about this approach to doing business.
Well, it's a great question. We look at we look at our sister property, the Marriott, truly as our sister property. It's we have the same owner. They're right adjacent to us. We share a lot of the same groups that come in. And so it's all about that group or that convention experience. So while they're here experiencing our hotel, they're also experiencing most likely the Marriott as well. So we work very closely in partnership together. And I would say that it kind of goes back to that example at the Hyatt Regency San Francisco Airport where, my feedback, my input that was brought back to that property was people see you as an airport property and probably don't realize that you have this connective tissue to the ocean front and the parks along the ocean trail, etc. In the same way, that is one of the best benefits of our sub-location. So we're not in the city center. We're a little bit removed. We're about 2 miles south of the city center. But we have connection to Lake Michigan. So technically the third largest freshwater lake in the world, and the shoreline is just absolutely magical. And so we're less than a half of a mile from the lakefront where there's, again, miles and miles of trails. So it's really expanding that overall experience beyond just what is in your four walls, if you will, and understanding that as that convention comes in, we have a lot of international travelers. We have a lot of conventions that have people from all over the United States. Many of them, oftentimes when we talk to them, they've never been to Chicago. So this is their experience in Chicago. So we're in essence ambassadors for Chicago. But the experience doesn't stop at our four walls. It's this area. It's these historic areas that we're close to that you can run through, but it's also the lakefront. And I love the idea, and I really believe in this, that we have an unadulterated connection to the lakefront in a different way than many of the city center properties in Chicago have. So if you've run through the city center of any major city, you have stoplights that you have to stop at, you have busy streets that you have to cross over, et cetera, et cetera. We have a path directly to the lakefront that requires no stopping. And then once you're there, again, you can run for miles and miles. You can either go north through the museum campus and get to some of the more congested areas by Navy Pier, et cetera. Or the beautiful part is you can run south, and that trail has a lot of wilderness on it, and it's just really peaceful and very, very few people on it. So you kind of have the entire lakefront, at your beck and call, if you will. But the other thing is when you run south, which most Chicago visitors don't really have access, because again, we're 2 miles south of the city center. So to run 2 miles further south on the trail, that's a long run. But there are vantage points along that trail that, as the shoreline kind of juts out to the east on Lake Michigan, there are vantage points where you can look back at the skyline of Chicago, and the only thing between you and the skyline is just water. So it's absolutely, there's some views along that stretch that are just absolutely beautiful. So that would, and again, we have that to offer with our location. And presumably, if you're an attendee, a visitor coming internationally or coming from another part of the United States, and you aren't familiar with what this sub-location's all about, you probably have no idea that connection to the lake is right there, and you have something unique here in just what you can see on that lakefront trail.
And is that, when you mention you sort of run down, you sort of only have the water and then the skyline of Chicago, would you say that is the wow spot of if you go running from Hyatt Regency McCormick Place?
I would say that is the wow spot, and it's even more wow when you can realize that or experience that at sunrise. I'm a big early runner, like I said, but sometimes in the summertime it really challenges me because the sunrise in Chicago happens around 4 a.m. But when you can experience those vantage points as the sun is coming up over Lake Michigan and hitting the skyline with the blue light and all of that, it is truly magical. It just experiencing that, it gives you an uplifting feeling the entire day.
And I know you're advocating for the early sunrise tour, so we've actually brought a new guide on just to do sunrise tours from McCormick Place. So we'll have that in place as well soon. So a little bit about how we actually work together, and this is not going to be one big promotional talk, but I wanted to sort of actually step back a little bit. And the way we got in contact is I was at a conference in Las Vegas, and I met with your colleague Hannah. She's in sales, and it was at these small tables inside a conference hall. And it was a late afternoon, I think on the second or third day. It was sort of where you were sort of, it's like mile or sort of kilometer 32 on the marathon, right? And I go over to Hannah and she's like, thank God, now I have a meeting. Can we just talk running? And I was like, we can indeed. We started sort of just talking running. And she was like, it's not really within what I do, but you should definitely speak to Matt. He's a big runner. And then we spoke, which is, I must admit, that's usually when people run, it's a lot easier to sort of explain what we do and the benefits. But then I also think it was Bridget, someone in marketing at the hotel as well. I was like, do you run? She was like, yeah, I run. And it seems like everyone at your hotel runs. So I have a question. Does everyone at the hotel run?
Not everybody, but we definitely have quite a few that are avid runners. And same with the Marriott too, they do as well. So we had a fall event, kind of a joint event that we had teams of runners, both the Marriott and the Hyatt and other community organizations. And we have quite a few runners in the hotel. Again, it's hard not to when you have just this connection to the lakefront and everything else. But Hannah, she's run many marathons, many more than I have. And she's definitely an avid runner, and just everybody really enjoys just getting out and experiencing all that Chicago has to offer with the lakefront and the nature along the lakefront.
Perfect. Excellent. So the running tours it sort of works. We have a couple of bespoke running tours starting from your hotel. One goes to the lakefront, as we spoke about. The other one actually goes towards Chinatown, so people can also experience that part of Chicago. We've already spoken a little bit about sort of running when you're at a hotel, but is there anything what was your main motivation for bringing running tours to the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place?
It really is expanding the experience beyond the four walls, allowing people, again, at their pace, right? Which is the great part about Go Running, and just the idea that you don't have to be an 8-minute miler to get out there and run, but really being forthcoming about the idea that, we will work at your group's pace. And I think that that's just important. So it is about, Chicago is a city of neighborhoods. There's 77 neighborhoods in Chicago, and Chinatown, Prairie Avenue District, Motor Row are frankly some neighborhoods that are more residential and don't get a lot of exposure for visitors. So it's getting that. And so when you come to a convention at McCormick Place, your experience doesn't just end at the hotel that you're in or inside the convention center. Get out there and experience the area. We've got amazing coffee shops in the area, local, etc. So it really is being intentional about expanding that experience beyond just our four walls.
Fantastic. And then moving away from the running, Matt, let's talk a little bit about Chicago. And this is also questions I ask everyone who's on this call. The first one is always people visiting Chicago. What is the one thing they should do, but they don't know that they should do it? So what's like a little bit of a sort of a good recommendation that everyone don't know they should do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've probably already given away this as a hint, but my number one advice is get to the lakefront and enjoy the lake. It's interesting if you Google, top 20 things to do in Chicago. There is a lot of really great activities to do, but all of those top 20. They all have a cost attached to them. And the amazing thing is that for the two that I always recommend, and I don't recommend this just because they're free, but they're obvious and they're great, is get to the lakefront and then enjoy the river walk. You can run or walk along the river walk, which is a mile stretch. And that has been developed over the last 15, 20 years in Chicago. And that's also a great experience that allows you to really take in Chicago's historic architecture from a totally different perspective. Or on the river and you're looking up at the architecture, it's very peaceful down there, just as peaceful as along the lakes. It's not only two great recommendations, but they're also free of charge. And for me, it goes back to the Daniel Burnham plan, who was an urban planner, and just the amazing accomplishment of what he was able to do. The Burnham plan was enacted in 1909, and basically it says that there would be no development along the lakeshore, that would be kept green. So there's just, again, miles and miles of running and biking trails, but then there's also park all up and down, many, many parks all up and down the lakefront as well. So very, very few buildings are set on the water, and therefore just that easy path that goes for miles and miles is just uninterrupted, which is just amazing.
That's interesting, because I often think the whole thing that you sort of 1909, that's quite some years ago, because we have in Copenhagen, we have similar green areas that goes back even a few 100 years more, but that we still have. And it sounds like you're like me, Matt. You're like eternally grateful for someone making a decision at some point, saying no one touches this, or we're gonna keep this, and then that no one since then has done it. So it's a little bit like, okay, hands off, guys. No one, you can develop anywhere else, you can do all these crazy things in the city, but the green areas, or these areas that's been here, let's just not touch those.
I'm a bit of a history buff as well, so I'm just amazed by the foresight that somebody had to say, hands off, this is protected, you're not going to touch the green space. I'm sure there was probably a lot of value, and I'm sure there was probably a lot of offers along the way that would have been easy money grabs for the city to develop some of that space. But it's, they've kept it intact to that plan for more than 100 years, and it's just I'm thankful for it.
Excellent. Is there one thing, now we've spoken about what should people do when they go to Chicago, is there one thing that you see guests do in Chicago where you sort of think maybe they should be doing this instead, like they should be walking in the riverfront, where you sort of feel maybe it's a little bit overrated, or they don't really get the true Chicago feel?
Yeah, I think one of the, there are so many great things to do in Chicago. And again, my number one suggestion would be, go to the lake, go to the river. But I wouldn't want to discourage anybody from all the different activities. But I would say that some of my favorite, the museums are great. The Art Institute is great. One of the museums in particular that probably doesn't have, and I know it doesn't, the same level of activity because of its location. So we have a museum campus which has an aquarium, a history museum, and those are closer to the city center. But then we have a museum of science and industry, and that's located actually south of us by about 5 miles. And it is an amazing museum, so I highly recommend it. And it's actually set at the location of the World's Fair in the late 1800s. So it's, just an amazing museum, very interactive. So I think underrated, if you will. I would definitely encourage people to visit there. Actually, you get to see some of those vantage points on your way back into the city that I spoke about, where you're coming on Lakeshore Drive and you can see the entire skyline with just water in front of you.
That's a great recommendation. Excellent. So we just have a little bit left, so I have one last question for you. But before we get to that, Matt, I have a little bit of a quick fire for you. So the first, a few questions, and you just sort of choose between the options. So the first one is, When you run, trail or pavement?
I prefer trail as much as I can.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so the next one, long run preparation, hydration pack and fancy shades, or water fountain stops and same old shorts?
For some reason, I am just a water fountain kind of guy. Fountain.
Excellent. And stretching, 20-minute mobility routine, or the classic touch your toes once, and we're done?
I don't stretch as much as I should. I stretch post run, and actually we have a really great dry sauna in the hotel as well. So I'll stretch in the dry sauna after a run for 10 or 15 minutes. Really just focused on my legs and my core.
That sounds like great luxury to finish a run with a sauna session.
Oh, it's great.
When it's freezing, hotel gym, treadmill, or outdoor run?
Outdoor run every chance I get. I'm looking forward to. Chicago's had a very, very cold winter, very unseasonably cold, and so it's actually warm right now. I didn't get outside today, hopefully tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to my first long run. When I'm at home on the weekends, and I'll go for a run outside. I did this past weekend, but I'm really looking forward to the spring and the summer when I can get out there and enjoy the lakefront every day. While I'm on the treadmill in our gym, we have one of those treadmills that you can select wherever you want to run through. So I run through Australia, New Zealand, Europe all the time. So it's a little, I'm kind of faking myself, but at the same point in time, I still enjoy, even though I've seen every single video everywhere around the world, I feel like I've actually seen Sydney and Auckland and everything else. So I will still, even if I'm on a treadmill, try to fake myself into thinking that I'm actually running outside.
Excellent. And then the last one, hotel choice, Park Hyatt or Hyatt Regency?
Oh, that's a tough one. For me, I'm very, very centered on the Hyatt Regency brand. I love our luxury brand, the Park Hyatt. I've supported and worked for the Park Hyatt here in Chicago. But for me, Hyatt Regency, I love convention hotels. I love the connection, and every day is different in a convention hotel. And I love just the fact that, we're bringing people together in our hotel to experience Chicago, and just the size and scale of the large convention hotels is great for me. So my personal preference is Hyatt Regency, even though I obviously love all of our brands. How's that for a
obviously
balanced and
excellent? So Matt, we're also coming to an end, also conscious of your time. The last question is, what is your best advice for runners? And this can be a beginner, a lead runner, all runners, but really for running, what is your best advice?
Yeah, it's to get out there and get started, and don't worry about pace or time. Focus more on like how much time you want to that you're able to commit, but get out there and get started. I tell my son who isn't into running that in the same way, like, don't bite off too much, because if you don't enjoy it, you'll be discouraged from it. So just get out there and try to, run for 30 minutes at whatever pace you're comfortable with, and then extend it as you go. But don't start out there. I see a lot of first-time marathoners say, I'm going to run a marathon and I want to get under this time. That added pressure, from my advice, is unnecessary, and it makes it not as enjoyable as what it should be. So just get out there, start, and then build from there. But again, go at your own pace and just make sure you're comfortable with it so that you don't not enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a great advice. I mean, just the fact that you enjoy it, make sure that you run the next time again, right? It doesn't really work if every time you think, oh, this is going to be a tough one yet again.
Yeah.
People are not looking. Excellent.
I tell you that, again, that my own pace, I really look forward to it. And now, mind you, I'm many, many years into it, but I can't imagine that I felt that same way when I was in my 20s, when I was first starting out, but I certainly do now. And so I'm thankful for kind of forcing myself to just get out there, even if it was just for a mile run or what have you, built it out over time to where it's really thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Excellent, Matt. I have no more questions. I want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time to speak to me on this podcast, but also a huge thank you, but you know this because I've written it to you in emails. Also, a big thank you for collaborating with Go Running Tours and being, I guess, so open-minded that to bring the running tours to your hotel as well. But thank you very much both for sharing your knowledge and your insights here, and also for being a great partner.
Well, my pleasure, Lena. It's a great partnership. I'm really happy to form this partnership with you all, and look forward to what's ahead. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. And that was the end of this Go Running Talks. Thank you for listening once again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with yet another interview. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye all.
Gotta go.